Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is At the Helm Sports. I'm your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 120. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button, and in the comment section, tell me who your winner is for this week. I've heard a lot of names thrown around there, and just trying to get a gauge on who a lot of people are on. So down in the comments, let me know who the winner is going to be. So obviously the Players was a huge success. I mean, we've been complaining a lot as golf fans recently, but just everything about the event was great. I mean, the coverage was incredible, which we tend to complain about. The golf itself was great. We finally got a great leaderboard, an awesome finish on Sunday. Obviously, Scotty got it done. All the talk of, can he go back to back? Is the putter really there? I mean, he proved it. He had the neck injury. It's hard to know how bad that really was and how much it hindered him. I mean, maybe that kept him from running away with it by 5 strokes like he did last year, or maybe it really wasn't that big of a deal and he kind of just played it up a little bit more. But regardless, the guy's incredible. He came storming back on Sunday. I mean, once he hit that 2-hop and 90-degree in the hole, that was just, you pretty much knew at that point it was his, even though that was pretty early in his round. But the guy is absolutely incredible. He is a superstar right now, and if the putter really is back, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. But we have seen him go on some runs and look unstoppable before, and then he doesn't win again past April. So we'll have to see what he does at the Masters and see what he does in some of these upcoming tournaments. But Scotty was absolutely incredible and put on a show on Sunday, which was kind of unfortunate because I know a lot of people had Brian Harman tickets, Xander Schauffele tickets, Wyndham Clark tickets. So obviously they weren't able to get it done. Harman just couldn't get it done. I mean, he looked very, very good on Sunday and played good throughout the entire tournament. He was actually birdieing some of the more difficult holes, but then not able to birdie some of the easier holes. So that kind of kept him out of it. Xander, just anytime he really just had a chance to pull away with it, he just choked it back. And then obviously the Wyndham putt. I mean, I still don't understand how that thing didn't go in. That was just absolutely brutal. It would have been awesome to see a playoff there between the two of them, but Scotty wins it, and it was a pretty good week for me overall. DraftKings wise, not so great when you talk up Siwoo and Sam Ryder all week and then end up cutting them in your last cuts. Usually doesn't work out very well. That could have made a huge difference because obviously they finished pretty well here, and for their prices, that would have gone a long way. But from a betting standpoint, can't complain when we don't lose money. I mean, we got the Hideki each way, had Wyndham top 20, Doug Gim top 40. So hit a bunch of things, and it was a good week overall. So now we move on to the Valspar. This one is a little bit more difficult. Definitely a difficult course. We can dive into it. So it's similar to the Players, just from a standpoint of we're still in the Florida swing. Obviously, it's the last stop in the Florida swing, but we have similar greens to what we had last week. So they're listed as Bermuda greens, but they're the POA overseed. So it'll basically be identical to what we saw at TPC Sawgrass. 7,340 yard par 71. And one of the interesting things about the Copperhead course at Innisbrook is it has 5 par 3s and 4 par 5s. So for a par 71, definitely makes it unique in that standpoint. The par 5s are obviously the easiest on the course. Most of them are not really reachable in 2, so not going to see a lot of eagles there, but you still do have to score on them because this is a difficult tournament. Usually we'll see somewhere around -10, -12 maybe. Burns was able to get to -17. So some years that there can be some scoring. And obviously this Florida swing, we have seen the PGA make some of these courses a little bit easier. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do here, but definitely got to score on the par 5s. 4 of the par 3s are actually over 200 yards. So they are definitely going to play as some of the more difficult holes on the course. And I mean, really, it has one of the most difficult 3-hole closing stretches. 16 to 18, the snake pit is absolutely brutal, and a lot of rounds and maybe even tournaments could actually come down to those 3 holes. 16 is the hardest of the bunch, 475 yard par 4, 24% bogey rate, nearly a 6% double or worse rate. So that hole can cause absolutely carnage. Then you have 17, which is a 215 yard par 3. does have the largest green on the course, but if you're not really getting it close, I mean, there's a chance of 3 putts in here, and putting inside of 5 feet is not a gimme here. So definitely got to get it pretty close there. The green's also surrounded by bunkers, so another difficult hole there. And then the closing 18th hole, 445 yard par 7. Wow, I cannot speak right now. Par 4 with narrow bunker lined fairway. There are trees on a lot of these fairways, so it's driving accuracy over driving power is the way you want to go this week. Driving accuracy comes in a little bit less than tour average, mainly because a lot of guys are hitting less than driver here. So they're finding a little bit more fairways, because you definitely don't want to be out of place here. The rough can definitely be penal. There are some trees lining the fairways, so you don't want to get too far off of course, because it's not like last week where you're going to go into the water, but you're going to make it a really tough time for yourself if you're not driving the ball accurately this week. Now, with the less than driver strategy, driving distance comes in a little bit lower, about 272 yards, so lower than tour average there. Now, approach shots definitely need the mid to long irons, 175 plus basically 20%, and then 200 yards. You're looking at almost half of all approach shots coming from 175 to 200 plus. So you got to bring those long irons, and really a lot of that obviously comes from those par threes being over 200 yards, but you definitely want to look at those proximity ranges, and even more specifically how guys fare on those par threes from 200 to 225. Last year, Taylor Moore won it at -10. Burns obviously won back-to-back years, -17. So we can head into the field itself. Not a terrible field, but it's got some strength up top, and we'll dive right into it. I mean, Xander, obviously, you got to wonder if there's going to be a hangover there. I know there's a hangover for me. I mean, that's probably still more from St. Paddy's Day than the Players, but a lot of people thought he was going to withdraw from this one. So it's going to be interesting to see how he comes out. I mean, if you look at him statistically and just where his game is at, I could see him running away with this thing. And I definitely like Xander this week. I think that's part of the reason why he's not withdrawing, is he thinks he can win here and he wants to get a win. So I do like Xander. 11,200 I think is actually a pretty good price for him, because again, we have this 5K scoring, or 5K pricing. So I do think it makes sense going to him. Obviously, Sam Burns is going to be incredibly popular, and I'm fine going back to him. He has just been a monster on this course. Came sixth last year, obviously won the back-to-back tournaments. He's gained strokes putting in all 5 appearances. He gained 10.5 strokes putting in 2018, over 9 strokes in 2021 in that win. So he likes these greens. Had an okay Players, really had an incredible Saturday, and then Sunday it was a little bit rough, shot a 76. He lost strokes putting, but fairly well teed to green there. And over the last 24 rounds, he's second in par 5 scoring. So we said you want to score on these par 5s. That definitely helps him. And 6th in bogey avoidance. So there's going to be a lot of trouble here, and he's very good at bogey avoidance. Part of that is being able to hit those putts to save par. So definitely like him here, and going to be playing quite a bit of Sam Burns. Now, really, I'd like to play a lot of these guys up top and then just pick and choose as I get down, because I do think that there's quite a gap from the top here, and then as we get down a little bit, even in the 8K range. So I'm going to try and fit in Justin Thomas. I was considering making a wager on him. I did end up going with Sam Burns just because of how well he's played this course. I took him at 12-1. Thomas is close at 14-1. I considered it. I am considering a top 20 on him. I know he missed the cut last week, but he's fared well here, and just his game has been really good. 2 missed cuts, but otherwise he's playing very well. And at the Copperhead course, he's 10th last year, 3rd in 2022, 13th in 2021. So do like where his game is at. It obviously fits here. So I definitely got to play some Justin Thomas. I do think Jordan Spieth will go overlooked. And for that reason, I do want to get him in some of my larger field stuff. His game hasn't really been great lately, but 10,200 is a good enough price for him. This is a course where he's had success. He came 3rd place last year. I do think that even though the approach game and off the tee game haven't been too great, his around the green magic just can pay dividends here, especially if the wind picks up. So right now I'm considering Spieth, but probably only in my 20 max. And then I love Brian Harmon as well. It's similar to Xander. How's he going to show up this week? Because he was right there and had it for the taking himself. So it's going to be interesting to see how it affects him. I do want to keep an eye on his ownership because I've heard his name thrown around quite a bit here, and actually did look early and was thinking about making a bet on him at 35-1. And then by the time I went back there, he was already down to 26. So skipped over that one. But I do think he's going to make the DraftKings pool. And then I'm skipping over Cam Young and Sung Jae. I do like where their games are at. Just Cam Young, he can get a little sloppy off the tee from time to time. So that just worries me a little bit here. Now, the approach game has been incredible for him. So if he's hitting all these greens, it doesn't come into play, but also his around the green hasn't been too great lately. So I'm willing to take a chance and skip over him. And then also Sung Jae, despite the fact that he's been playing better. I do like Tony Finau, actually. He's first in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. He has just been hitting his iron so well. He's fourth in proximity from over 200 yards, fifth in par five scoring, just with how well he's been striking the ball. Just kind of got to hope that the putter shows up, which has been letting him down lately. But at this price, just in this field, this is the type of field where Finau can come out and win from time to time. So I do like that. And even if you wanted to make a bet on him, I think he's at a pretty good number. I've seen it 22 to 25, somewhere around there. I did not personally bet it because I went all the way up top for Burns, but I don't hate it. A guy I did bet was Nick Taylor, 9,100. The guy is playing great golf, and I got him at 40-1 with a top six each way. I do think that he gets a little bit popular here, but he's been playing so well this year. He obviously won the Waste Management back in February, finished 12th at the Arnold Palmer, finished 26th last week at the Players. He actually played great golf last week, other than shooting a 76 on Saturday, but he was 4 over on his opening 9 on Saturday and 2 bogeys, a double. So it didn't start off well, but then he kind of turned it around, shot even par on the back. So he played pretty well overall outside of that front 9 on Saturday. And he's gained strokes on approach in 7 straight tournaments over the last 24 rounds. He's third in strokes gained approach, 13th in bogey avoidance, and 24th from 175 to 200 yards. So I like where Taylor's game is at. Definitely going to be playing quite a bit of him. And then we're going to get pretty spotty down here. I do like Keith Mitchell. I think that he could play well here. He's been striking his irons fairly well, especially the long ones. He's actually first from 200 plus yards. So do like that. Hasn't really played this course very often, only a 69th back in 2021. So I do think that it could fit him, though. And with his current form, he's a guy that tends to play well in Florida. So I'm definitely fine going there. Then I'm going to drop down quite a bit here. I do like Aaron Rye at 8,500. He's also been hitting his irons very well. And 175 to 200, he's ninth over the last 24 rounds. A guy that can find the fairways. It's just similar to what I said with Tony Finau. Their games are nowhere near the same, but it's probably going to come down to putting with them. So do get a little bit worried about that, but it's a guy that can avoid bogeys and find fairways. So I'm fine with him in 8,500. Doug Gim has been on absolute fire, so 8,400 for him, I do think is a great price. Do want to keep an eye on his ownership because he's been very popular the past several tournaments, and I could see him being incredibly popular here at only 8,400. But he's also been great with the irons, great with bogey avoidance, good on the par fives. So I like where his game is at, and I'm definitely fine going there. Next, we have Maverick McNeely. Beginning of the week, I did not think I was going to go here at all. But after looking at it, I do think that it makes a little bit of sense here. He's been playing very well this year. He's only missed one cut in 8 tournaments. Most recently, he finished 9th at the Players last week, 41st at the Cognizant, but then 13th in Mexico, 6th at the Waste Management. So he has a good amount of good finishes this year. He's gained strokes off the tee in each of his last 4 tournaments. So you obviously like that, especially when you pair it with his wizardry around the green. I mean, that could definitely come into play here. So if he's finding fairways, gaining off the tee, and then he's first around the green over the last 24 rounds, 8th in bogey avoidance, 9th in par 3 scoring. So definitely like where his game is at. I made an outright on him at 66-1 with top 6 places. So I do like him as well. Now, if we keep going down here, I'm willing to go to Sepp Straka. I just, it's more of a feel. He's been okay lately. Nothing really sticks out too much to you. Hasn't really played this course very much. 46th most recently back in 2019. But I'm fine with where his game's at, and I do think that he could attack this course. Taylor Moore obviously won last year. We've seen Paul Casey. We've seen Sam Burns come back and play well as the defending champ. So I'm willing to go there 7,800 with him. I think I'm going to play Billy Horschel. As of right now, I do have a star next to his name. Hasn't really played the Florida swing as great as you would like him to, but he is good on the par threes. He can find some fairways. He's good at bogey avoidance and has played well in the past in Florida. So I'm willing to go there at only 7,400. Another guy I want to look at the ownership, but Sam Ryder, like I said, I ended up not going with him last week. Kind of wish I did, but he's been striking his irons incredibly well. So I'm fine going back there, depending on what the ownership is. I'm seeing somewhere around 15% right now, but at 7,300, as long as he doesn't get much higher than that, I'm fine going there. He's been, as I said, hitting the irons very well, but also finding fairways, which you want to do around here. I'm going to play Daniel Berger as well. I think that as he gets more tournaments under his belt, he's going to start to look a little bit more like himself. And I'd rather be early on it than late. I do think that he does get a little bit of steam here. Not much, maybe somewhere around 12%, but it's actually a little bit more when pricing first came out than I thought he was going to get. But, when you see a caliber of his name, people just know what he's capable of, or what at least he used to be capable of. So at only 7,200, it does stick out. Now from here, very few and far between here. I do like Andrew Novak. I'm willing to forgive him for last week. Obviously, a very volatile course with a lot of water, but previously had 3 straight top 10 finishes, gained over 5 strokes on approach in 2 of those 3 tournaments. So striking the ball very well. He's 7th in strokes gained approach from 200 plus yards, 11th around the green. And he's also top 20 in par threes from 200 to 225 over the last 24 rounds. So I like where his game is at for this place. And then Bud Cauley, I'll sprinkle in a little bit. I think he's been playing pretty good golf lately after a long layoff. Grayson Sig actually stands out statistically. 6,300, I think, is a good price for him. 6th in strokes gained approach, 14th in bogey avoidance, first on those par threes from 200 to 225, first in par three scoring overall. He's 4th on those iron shots from 175 to 200. So definitely like where Grayson Sig's game is at only 6,300. And then I will sprinkle in some Ryan Moore. Played a little bit of him last week. He was okay, but another guy that can find the fairway and has been striking the ball very well. He's actually top 10 in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. So I am fine going there. And then as far as I'm going to drop down is probably Michael Kim. Also been pretty good with the irons, and he's pretty good on par threes. But there's really not much that I like down in the 5K range. And I don't think that you really need to get there too much. So as I said, I'm really going to try and focus a lot on getting as much of those guys up top as I possibly can, and then just mixing them with a lot of the guys that I named a little bit further down in the pricing. But to recap the bets that I have so far this week, we have Sam Burns at 12 to 1. I have Nick Taylor at 40 to 1 with a top 6 each way. Then I have Mav McNeely at 66 to 1 with a top 6 each way. And then I'm probably looking at maybe a Justin Thomas top 20, maybe Tony Finau. And then I'm thinking about maybe putting a placement bet on Aaron Rye, depending on what the odds are. But that's what I'm looking at so far. Probably looking to add another long shot, maybe 2. So check out thehelmsports.com. Obviously, in the My Bets tab, I will have everything up there if you need it, or in the newsletter that will be in the description, or you can just check out at the Helm Sports on Substack. Always will have everything there, and the final DraftKings thoughts and all that good stuff. All my content will be linked there as well. But that's going to do it for this week. As always, thank you for listening. Greatly appreciated. As I said, down in the comment section, tell me who your winner is. I'm really curious to see what people are feeling this week. But that's going to do it for me for this week. Thank you for listening. I am your host, Derek Helm. And remember,
just have fun out there.